Serious, what is your worst memory of public school? Getting punched in the shoulder every single day on the way home from school. No one could do anything about it because it wasn't on school grounds. There was a 2-year period during middle school when I had a perpetual bruise on my upper arm, except on summer vacations. I finally put an end to it by leaving a piece of cardboard filled with thumbtacks outside for a week so they rusted, and duct taped it under my sleeve. The kid punched me one more time, and got a grid of puncture wounds on his fist. He didn't tell anyone. No wonder he didn't tell anyone if you gave him lockjaw. When I was in 4th grade there was a kid in our class named Chris. Every day Chris would ask to go to the bathroom repeatedly. One day he asked for probably the 3rd time that day and the teacher told him no. You've gone twice in the middle of class already. You can wait until the next class break. Several minutes later a smell started to permeate the air, growing ever more pungent and awful. He crapped his pants. I had a teacher in 3rd grade who wouldn't let this kid Bruce go to the bathroom during an assembly, so he pisses himself. She makes him get up in front of the whole K-8 school and say, "Hi, my name is Bruce, redacted, and I peed my pants." She'd been there forever, so nothing happened to the bee. I had a bully teacher coach in high school, always screaming about something. He never seemed to like me even though I tried my hardest in sports. I wasn't very good. I did get great grades and was in my 1st year of college. I had to stop by the high school to pick up a transcript. Walked by his classroom on the way to the office. He stops lecturing the class and comes out in the hallway to berate me for wearing a hat in the school. I took my hat off, adjusted the bill, looked him in the eye, put it back on and walked away. He followed me to the office grumbling about how I had a lesson to learn and he was going to show me. Principal comes out of his office to see what all the yelling is about. I still haven't said a word. He starts retelling the story to the principal. I turn step to the secretary and ask for my transcript. Remind her I called earlier. She hands it over. I turn to the principal and ask him if all guests in the school were treated like this. I think he forgot I wasn't a student anymore. I always wish I would have told him off and created a big scene, but I just left. Cool and collected. I'm proud of you. For what it's worth. Mold on the ceiling in the cafeteria, located in the basement, had a Facebook page until the school made them shut it down. How they take care of the Facebook page and leave the mold. The computer science teacher throwing a chair at my head. He had bipolar disorder and great aim. Was still working there last time I heard. He had bipolar disorder and great aim. Like my wife. It's a lethal combination. Fire alarm went off in the middle of winter. About 600 kids had to stand outside in the freezing cold with no proper clothes on for over an hour. We were then allowed to go back inside. Then the alarm went off again. Happened at my school too, except for the fire was real. I have to. Grade 4. I bring my binder up to the teacher's desk to show her my homework. Can't remember what it was. She looks at it for a few seconds and suddenly picks the binder up and heaves it across the classroom without a word. It lands with a thud and a crack as it tears and the rings pop all out of alignment. I was stunned. All I could do was go pick up my binder and sit down again. Told my parents that night when they asked how was your day at school and they had the school put me in another class for the year. In the grand scheme of things, that's not too terrible. Plus bonus. This teacher was a big fan of country music and made all the kids practice square line dancing throughout the year for a year-end concert. Where I'm from, the crap's embarrassing, so at least I got out of doing that. Grade 6. Our class is doing a play. We've rehearsed all year and have several showings. One on particular showing, my character is supposed to come out of hiding and steal this magical lamp that was resting on a bench. When I'm about to do that, I realize the lamp is not where it's supposed to be. I panic and say in a very loud and clear voice, "Where is the freaking lamp?" In that moment, you could feel the air being sucked in by the stunned audience. My parents were in the audience. Someone hands me the lamp and we continue as normal. Afterwards, my teacher took me around to every class to give a public apology to the students. I don't feel aggrieved or insulted that I had to do this because it was the right thing to do, but by God was it mortifying. I still think about it once every couple of months or so, to this day. That's freaking awesome. On Frog Dissection Day, I was partnered with this really nerdy, cute girl. This is an important detail. because it provides some semblance of an excuse for just how stupid I was. As we're cutting up this little frog bro, she looks at me and says, "Dare you to eat a leg?" She could have dared me to swallow the frog whole and I probably would have obliged, so down goes the leg. Unfortunately, it doesn't go down all the way. The webbed foot gets stuck in my mouth, and the dangly leg bit is down my throat. I of course start gagging, the teacher runs over, kids are squealing, and everyone watches as I reach into my mouth and pull out this sad little frog leg. The girl is in shock, the teacher is in shock, I'm in shock. The only person who makes a comment is this quiet mousy kid who sums it up with, "You." So yeah, dissection is pretty good times. Watched a kid in our class eat some part of the innards that they took out of the frog. I still gag thinking about it. He got $5 for it. Back in the day, before classes began for the day, elementary age kids were allowed to play outside on the playground. There I was, playing in the big mass soccer game, when I, legitimately, stole the soccer ball from an older kid. He got mad at this. He tackled me and started pummeling my face. My face became a bloody mess, and I was in a daze. When my mother was called in, she spoke to the vice principal about what would be done with the other boy. His response was boys will be boys, and nothing was done. That was the tipping point for my parents sending me to private school. That, and the Florida school system was one of the worst in the country. A bird landed on my head at recess and wouldn't get off. Then some idiot hit it and it started scratching and pecking me. I was like 6, so it freaked me out good. So my school had this automated phone system that was used mainly for bad weather. I live in the south, so tornadoes occurred often, so it was a pretty effective system. This same system was used to inform parents that their child was failing a class school in general. My principal accidentally sent that message to every kid's parents in the entire school system. I was raised by my grandmother and grew up with very good grades, and when I walked into my house after school, the first thing she said was, "Wanna freaking tell me something?" I started crying instantly, still pretty young, and confessed that it was me that broke the headlights of her car and not my friend who lived next door. Thanks public school. We had a substitute growing up who would shamelessly fill in for any class, whether it was orchestra, PE, computer science or preschool. One girl asked, "How can you master so many subjects?" He answered, "I just fake it. No one knows what they're doing anyways." It was then that I realized adults were a bunch of phonies for the first time. Probably my worst memory of public school were those kids that were perfectionists, and then when they did something somewhat sloppily they would actually break down and cry. Always felt bad for these kids, but I never felt it was my place to go and comfort them. Then they would bring a flare gun to school to try and commit suicide. When I almost got expelled because the principal allowed my home issues to be a reason for expulsion, I struggled with depression a lot. So I basically just said, "Frick it, I fail. I fail." I was spending a lot of time reading when I shouldn't, and talking to people online. My mom came to school one day and opened my locker to try and find my missing homework. Hint, there was none. I just freaking hated school. So she's going through my stuff and I notice a binder that has some private stuff. Thoughts, online acts, etc. Basically my journal. So I tried, and failed, to hide it from her. Well, it didn't work and she threw a fit that I wouldn't give it to her. So she took me to the principal, who then decided to tell me, either I give her the binder or get expelled. So I was ready to accept expulsion, but I wouldn't leave with my mom. So they then threw in cops. That's right, they were going to call the cops on me and charge me with trespassing. I was 13/14. So I caved. I gave the binder to my mom, and when I got home she had read it, and my life was over. The end. And frick public school. And frick my principal. One of my testicles twisted around in my sleep, cutting off all blood flowing. It died off and had to have it removed. Instead of telling the class I was sick and would be back in 2-3 weeks, the teacher told the class I had to have my nut removed. Until the next big thing happened at school. That year was not fun at all. And now I have a new phobia. Well, not in the actual school, but related. We had a bus stop close to my house. When it rained, we would all take shelter under an overhang by my house. There was this bully kid in the neighborhood who turned up occasionally. I don't think he ever really did anything, Just tried to intimidate kids. Anyway, one day he decided he wanted all of us to hide by my house and miss the bus. I had the nerd dilemma where I just wanted to go to school, but didn't want to mess with the bully. Finally I said frick it, and started walking to the bus stop. The bully guy started shouting a bunch of threats at me, so I lost my nerve, turned around, and went into my house. Ended up calling my mom to take me to school. Got suspended for 2 weeks when some dumbass decided to spear me from behind. Resulted in a lifelong back problem. Their reason: he wouldn't have hit you for no reason, nothing like getting punished for being a victim. Zero tolerance police in a nutshell. My physics teacher tried to intentionally fail me because he didn't like me. It was one of the most stressful and terrifying sagas of my life at that point. My hot teacher asked me what I wanted out of life, and without even thinking I said I'd be whatever she wanted me to be. It was in front of the whole class. That's actually pretty funny. You sound like my kind of friends. D. My second grade teacher complained I was a distraction when I had to get up and change my hearing aids during class. She made me cry repeatedly. My fourth grade teacher treated me like garbage because I was hard of hearing. Her daughter was deaf, and she resented me, I guess. Other kids. There was always someone making fun of me for my nose or glasses or height. I don't know why. I was always quiet and nice. I just have a dent in my nose that makes it resemble a butt. I always had glasses and I am very short. Because kids are C. I have so many to choose from. The one that stands out comes from 4th grade. My crappy elementary school used a mark punishment system. Tally marks, I think. Basically, when you did something wrong, you got a mark, and certain numbers meant certain punishments, etc. I was the good kid, largely because I was an only child. I liked being praised for being good, so I sought to be good at all times, which actually left me fricked up in a fair number of ways. Anyhow, I was determined, at all costs, to never get a mark, not one. Going to the bathroom during class, as the teachers made very clear, was an automatic mark. It didn't matter if it was an emergency. You leave, you get marked. And one day, I really had to pee, but I refused to get marked. I chose to wait. Then I pee myself. The end. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this one. The time our radical Christian, yes, there is such a thing, 2nd grade teacher freaked the heck out because one kid brought a TMNT action figure to school. He didn't take it out of his bag or anything. She just happened to spot it and started freaking out because mutant turtles are from Satan. She organized a toy burning and burnt everything that wasn't real and from God, including one poor girl's puppy in my pocket collection. That bee got fired, but too late for us. Going to middle school orientation and some of the kids pointing and laughing, calling me names as we walked through the cafeteria. I was the fat and cool kid, so I really hadn't been made fun of until then. I was the fat and uncool kid, so that seems familiar. I got teased a lot but still always tried to fit in with the cool kids. One day I wanted to show off my new outfit that I felt super confident in, so I walked up to the kids and tried to just hang out, but they were not having it. So they knocked me to the ground, ripped off my skirt and threw it in a tree. Obviously super mortified standing there in my undies. I took off and ran home to change. When I showed up back at school, I was pulled into the principal's office and was suspended for leaving school. When I tried to explain what happened, I was told I shouldn't have tried to hang around people who didn't like me. When I tried to explain what happened, I was told I shouldn't have tried to hang around people who didn't like me. Of all the stories of school injustices I've ever read on this subreddit, this one may have angered me the most. I want to set Satama on the principal. The worst memories is moving around constantly since elementary school. I've never been too good at making friends, and moving constantly made that even harder. I gave in to being friendless and talking to other Anons online until high school, when my first friend was someone who physically assaulted me when we first met. One time I peed my pants in front of my entire class while on a field trip. One time I threw up through my nose in the middle of math class. One time I fell asleep and was snoring so loud that the teacher took a picture of me and sent it to my dad, who also taught at the school. Edit, I forgot one. One time I was making machine gun noises and accidentally hocked a sizable lodgy into another dude's hair. However, easily the most embarrassing thing to happen to me in school was my first and second field days in elementary school. We had this horrible woman as a teacher who treated the whole class as some sort of Olympic level event. We were in the 3rd grade and she'd berate us for not being good enough. I wasn't great at the balance beam and it was something she'd yell at me for. That sort of thing. Anyways, our field day was traditional track and field events. They'd build it up to be this fun thing, and then march us all down as a bunch of 8-year-olds to run a mile, run various dashes, long jump, high jump, etc. In contrast, my youngest brother's field day included a bounce house. Lucky bastard. Everybody got a ribbon for each event they competed in and were required to wear them pinned to their shirt. Blue for first, red for second, white for third, and a rainbow ribbon for all other places. My most embarrassing moment in public school was the 2 days I spent walking around adorned entirely in rainbow ribbons. It's not bad enough I sucked at pay. No, everyone else had to know it too. The 3rd year I was at that school, my mom kept me home on field day and took me to lunch. Not as good for my physical health, but much better for my mental well-being. TLDR, my worst school memory is of colorful rainbows. I was picked on a lot in school, especially elementary school before I moved states. I wasn't popular, but I did have a few close friends. Only one of those friends was in my actual classroom though. Even the teachers seemed to dislike me. I realized just last year that I have ADD, which explains a lot of my learning growing up. By no means was I a dumb kid, but it certainly was harder to teach me than others. One day, one of the really popular kids is going around the room and giving out invites to his birthday party. He's doing it very publicly, very loudly. Everybody sees him. He's announcing details about the party, location, etc. And he's giving everyone except me and my friend, and a couple of other kids, invites. He's done passing out invitations, and then sits back down. The teacher stands up, and then proceeds to ask why he didn't invite everyone, especially if he was going to do it publicly, and he responded, well, I don't really know everyone in this class. So the teacher proceeds to bring out her own invitations to his party that she gives to all the other kids who didn't get invited to his party. That meant me, my friend, and maybe 1 or 2 other unpopular kids got invites from the teacher to attend this kid's birthday party. The teacher and the kid go back and forth for a little while about how she can't do that, and how he shouldn't be so rude to others, etc. I don't even remember that conversation tbh. I just remember feeling very apathetic. I remember very vividly thinking, who the heck cares? I don't like any of these people going to this party because they've bullied me for years. I don't want to go to his party. And while the teacher had a good point about how he was inviting people rather obnoxiously and publicly, it wasn't really her place to decide who got to go to his party. I didn't want to go to a party where I wasn't invited and wouldn't be welcomed anyway. I'd much rather stay at home and just play my video games or watch cartoons. Looking back on it, that one very strong feeling of apathy was probably one of the earliest signs of my oncoming battle with major depressive disorder. There was a rule at my elementary school that if you handed out invites in class you had to invite everyone or else you couldn't do it. If you were caught doing it anyways you got in trouble. I grew up on a reservation and attended school off reservation in the border town 11 miles away. I grew up surrounded by cousins and friends, so I was hardly ever left alone. My friends' cousins decided to take weightlifting classes and I stayed with regular pay since the teacher was the boys' varsity basketball coach. It was an opportunity to practice drills all hour. Our class had to wait 10 minutes for the last bell to ring, so we just stood around in the gym. I was standing alone and these two, I'll just say it, white guys started taunting me and pulling at my shirt and bag. They wouldn't let me go past them since I was standing near a wall. There was other people standing around but they didn't say or do anything to help. These guys were calling me Indian BRS native and trying to grab me. I grew up seriously sheltered and I wasn't sure what to do. I remember being scared since things like this happened all of the time but never to my friends or cousins. I managed to get past them and I headed for the main office to complain. I don't remember what happened to them for sure, but I didn't see them in my class again or in school for a while. My grandmother handled the situation for me, but I was a little scared of people from that experience. I told my aunt about it and apparently things like that happen to native girls all the time at that school. Usually the native girls would handle themselves. Usually by pushing the repeat offenders in the girls' bathrooms with someone guarding the door. I'm not sure if I'd call this my worst memory, but it's definitely one of the more disgusting ones. In 8th grade, there was a kid at lunch who would always eat weird food combinations, particularly with ranch dressing. One day he was dead to eat a banana peel that he first dipped in the ranch. So of course he eats the banana peel and then pukes it back up. He then continued to eat the vomit. He ate the vomit with ranch, right? Butthole used to empty the spit valve from his trombone on my shoulder when we were in band. I sat in front of him and played alto saxophone. He ended up getting cancer and dying, so I'm over it now. Justice. Certain kids weren't allowed to go to the bathroom or locker room during gym class because they would disappear for the rest of the period. One time, this one girl insisted that she needed to use the bathroom. She was one of the people notorious for cutting class and either smoking or harming herself in some way, so she was not allowed to leave. She dropped her shorts, squatted in the middle of the gym, and pee more than I've ever seen anyone pee before, all while making direct eye contact with the gym teacher. Because of her we had to run 1.5 miles instead of 1 mile and I had undiagnosed asthma, so I thought I was dying. Gym class in general was the worst, actually. The cops came and arrested that gym teacher for sexual assault of a minor one morning during school, too. Ugh. I know all about undiagnosed asthma and having to run for gym. I feel for you. It would have been hard to run that far. In kindergarten I wet my pants and they made me sit out in the common area and wait for my mum to bring me clean pants. I had to sit there alone where all the other classes could see me, and it felt humiliating. Also in grade 1 they put room dividers around my desk so I wouldn't have anything to distract me. It felt very lonely. Hey, I had dividers too. My friends, all girls, and I were really close so we always held hands and linked arms everywhere we went. My teachers who were very homophobic thought we were spreading the gay and told us we were forbidden to have any sort of touching, and then masked it as you won't make new friends. The worst was probably fighting with the school over whether I qualified for free or reduced meals. My family was as poor so this was a big deal that thankfully got resolved to my benefit. Other than that, public school was actually pretty great. I grew up in a very poor city but the school had both great teachers and curriculum. I still credit them with my success in undergrad and law school. Beat up and knocked down into a puddle of pee in the boys' restroom. Then having to walk to class and ask to go to the office so I could go home. Crying the whole time. Middle school kids are the worst. Getting picked to go to the gifted middle school but it was populated by cliques of spoiled rich kids who would tease anyone from a poor area or without designer clothes. Holy crap, what a miserable hellhole. I switched schools 3 months later to the poor school and was back with my friends. Old comment. I had a homeroom teacher that refused to learn my name. Corrected her 3 times about it. The final time, she just told me that it wasn't that big deal. She then promptly did the adult thing and refused to speak to me for the rest of the year. Straight up didn't acknowledge me. I had to play goddamn charades to get my hall pass signed. The thing that peed me off was that she was a pretentious theater enthusiast that enjoyed the finest, read, oldest, works. B is popping off the names of old bus dudes with 6, 7 syllables, and she can't pronounce 3, 7 letters. Kiss my butt, Ms. Rose, your plays were garbage. It's not a commonly discussed subject, but I personally think there's a special chamber of heck for people who refuse to learn the names of those they work with. It's such a passive-aggressive way to disrespect someone. When I told my guidance counselor I wanted to go to an Ivy League school and she said, oh, people from insert my hometown don't get into Ivy League schools. Either the day in 7th grade where my art teacher refused to let me go to the bathroom and I crapped my pants, or the day in 11th grade where I dropped too much acid before school and my then girlfriend decided to tell me she swallowed an entire bottle of pills. That went from crap myself to LSD suicide attempt pretty dang quick. Being bullied by people for years called monkey woman. Still no idea why they did it. Hate monkeys. But I earn 6 figures and they made not a lot with their lives, so I win. Oddly enough, my 2 bully nicknames were Cuban Kid. I look like the spitting image of a Midwestern wasp. Not a single Hispanic in my background. And Jesus Kid. I think this one was because I was so dang quiet and people just forgot I was even there a lot of the time. I was barely Christian and never spoke about my faith to anyone. I still don't understand years later. I only went to public school for 2nd grade and part of 3rd. I was bullied and, even after telling my parents, teacher, and principal, nothing changed. So mom told me that next time the girl hurt me, to hurt her back. So I did. She pushed me down and punched me. I kicked her in the shin. She went down immediately, started crying, and I got detention. She was not punished at all, but she never touched me again. As somebody with autism, I can safely say that most of my public school experience was pretty bad. Middle schoolers can go eat crap and die. Went to the bathroom as a whole in the class. Walk in and everyone is all around each other. Pull my junk out and start pee while carrying a conversation with a friend about Little Big Planet. Back away from the toilet as my business was done and about to zip up my pants when suddenly, pee everywhere. There was pee on my friend's shoes, pee on my jeans, and pee on the floor. I walked to my mom's class in front of everyone and told her that I spilt water on my jeans. My mom was my science teacher in that grade. Sat in horror for a few minutes till I could go home. TLDR. Pee on myself and friend next to me and had to tell my mom who was teaching my class that I spilled water on me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.